Title: The Table That Remembered Him. He sat at the small cafe table as if it had been expecting him all along. The chair wobbled in a familiar way, the kind that makes you adjust your weight without thinking, like an old dance step your knees still remember. He wrapped his hands around the cup, not for the warmth, though that helped, but because it gave them something to do. Hands, he'd learned, always gave you away when your mind wandered too far. The cafe hadn't changed much. Same umbrella, slightly more threadbare. Same hand-painted sign that said Cafe, optimistic and vague, like it hadn't committed to being anything else. The walls still wore their stains proudly. Coffee splashes, rain shadows, the faint ghost of summers long evaporated. Even the birds overhead seemed to fly in the same lazy arguments as before. What had changed, of course, was him. He smiled at that thought and took a sip. The coffee was decent. It always had been. Never remarkable, never bad. Reliable, like the kind of person you only appreciate after they have gone. He hadn't planned to come here. Life had nudged him in with the gentle shove of coincidence. Missed train, too much time, not enough purpose. And suddenly he was here, sitting at their table with an extra chair that still looked faintly offended to be empty. She'd sat there once. No, many times. Always late, always apologetic, always pretending she hadn't forgotten the time because she hated being predictable. She used to tap the table twice before sitting down as if asking permission. He'd never asked why. Some mysteries felt like they should remain intact. He could still hear her voice if he tried. Dry, observant, dangerously amused by the world. She'd once described this cafe as trying very hard not to be impressive, which had felt like a compliment they both shared. They were like that too back then. Two people determined not to announce themselves loudly, hoping someone would notice anyway. They'd talked about everything here. Jobs they didn't love, futures they pretended not to want. Other people dissected with the enthusiasm of surgeons who had no intention of operating. And sometimes they'd talked about nothing at all, which had felt like the rarest luxury. He remembered the day it ended, though he'd tried not to for years. Not dramatically. No thrown cups, no tears on the pavement. Just a quiet understanding that they were walking toward different versions of themselves, and neither wanted to admit it first. She'd smiled a little sadly and said, "We were good, though." As if goodness were something that expired. He'd nodded then, like a fool who thought nodding meant agreement instead of surrender. A breeze lifted the umbrella slightly, and he instinctively reached out, steadying the pole. He laughed at himself. Still fixing things. Still thinking it mattered. The waitress came by. New face, same bored kindness. He ordered another coffee he didn't need. Some habits were cheaper than therapy. As he waited, he noticed a couple at the next table, leaning toward each other with that early intensity, laughing too loudly, already collecting memories they'd someday weaponize against nostalgia. He felt a flicker of envy, quickly followed by something softer. Recognition, maybe, or forgiveness. When the coffee arrived, he raised the cup slightly, not a toast, not really, more of a nod. To the table, to the empty chair, to the version of himself who had once believed love was a permanent arrangement instead of a season. He finished the cup slowly, letting the last warmth settle. When he stood, the chair scraped just a little, complaining as always. He didn't apologize this time. As he walked away, he realized something had shifted. Not the ache exactly, but its weight. It felt lighter now, like a story he could carry without dropping. The cafe would stay. The table would remember, and he finally would move on. Not bitter, not broken, just quietly grateful for a chapter that ended exactly when it was supposed to.